Welcome to Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
That's that big voice guy. That means it is time to have another show. And listen, we're starting to establish some consistency. One's a fluke, two's a coincidence, third more is trending. This is the second Monday in a row we are on schedule. So let's be hopeful that next week we can start trending. Welcome.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to last week, but we did. So things have worked out.
It worked out because you're very flexible, right? Like, touch your toes in the standing position. That is my man, Jacob Padilla. It is so good to see him fresh off a morning in which he spent a lot of time covering volleyball, which was, I know people will poo-poo the win and they'll just look at stats if they didn't watch the match, but something to that. Playing without two starters, Kentucky is formidable. Tough, brutal schedule for Kentucky to start the season. Yeah. Goodness gracious. And Nebraska found a way to get it done. So thanks for being here.
Yep. Thanks. It's fun to kind of get back into this a little bit, especially after, we heavy Class A for me to start the year this last week. A lot of Class B. Saw two different Class B games on Thursday and Friday. So good to kind of spread around a little bit and get eyes on different levels.
And very interesting, right? There's much to be made about coaches' polls and who's in what and who's not. But how about this, where even in this is how I think the coaches take a considerable amount of time, and Mike Sauter, who puts those polls together. How about like the flip-flop of a schedule with Scott, Waverly, and Elkhorn North? Nothing happened in terms of the loss column to maybe outwardly shift the rankings. But coaches, after getting an eye, go with Bennington 1, still at 4-0. Scott now 2, moving up from 3 a week ago with an impressive win. They're 3-1. Waverly going from 4 to 3 at 4-0. And Elkhorn North, who was 2, going to 4-0, which lets me know coaches are really doing their due diligence because they're getting inside the schedule and who opponents played and not just kind of taking it for granted. I thought that was pretty eye-opening. That's how you do good work.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that when I was going through it.
Right, me too.
Because the top 4, everybody won. So instead, I'm like, oh, wait a second, Elkhorn North's not 2 anymore. Oh, Scott, well. And it makes sense like that. So I was there on Friday night for Scott's 45-0 shutout of Elkhorn, who was ranked number 8 and is still ranked number 8 despite getting shut out like that. That was an unbelievably impressive performance for Scott. Elkhorn, they just couldn't do anything. They could not move the ball. They finished with under 100 total yards, and that's not even factoring in the penalty yards. It was less than that when you factor in the penalties. So. And Scott, they ran the ball like unofficially. This is my stat keeping 53 times for 458 yards and 6 touchdowns.
If it's unofficial, but it's yours, that's actually official. You and I had a discussion a couple weeks ago over, was it 11 yards or 14?
It was the.
I know what it was, but what the difference was only like 14
like
yards.
18, I think it was. Ended up being.
Not to nitpick. But see, that's why I think you're good at what you do. Like sometimes the devil's in the details. But details matter, and especially with yardage
and stats, right? And the more I've done this, the more like you kind of at the end you see stats like they're official, but like nobody keeping stats are like everybody messes up.
Yeah.
Like so, I'll get there after a game and see like what the schools have posted. Like that's not even close to accurate. And now some of the huddle stuff like that's. So the Bellevue West Kearney game,
for example, poor Yemplo, right? Yeah. Like not,
we'll get to that later. But they had like their tackles. They've got like 80 some tackles for Kearney, like the huddle provided stats.
Yeah.
When I think there were like 59 plays plus a few special teams. Like there weren't even enough plays on offense for Bellevue West for Kearney to have that many tackles. Yeah. So like, where is this coming from? So, and there are a few plays, it's like, yeah, I feel like I was probably right on this. I don't know what they were calling there or whatever. So it like end of the day, like I'm going to be off with some, but I'm going to be there are others that'll be more accurate than the official stats or whatever. So it is what it is. The main point is you get it pretty close, and I think I did there for Scott. They first time seeing them this season, and they're really good at what they do. I was impressed with Bennett Turman there back starting. He his mastery of the option, just the ball handling was terrific. Made all the right decisions on whether to keep or whether to pitch. 10 carries, 120 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Had like a 59-yarder and then like 30-some yarder. It just broke away and nobody could catch him. Colin Pike was really impressive back. Didn't end up scoring, but 13 carries, 135 yards. They gave it to their other backs once they got inside the red zone. Anthony Heidoff, 10 carries, 70 yards and a touchdown. Max Chandler, 5 carries, 54 yards and a touchdown.
They call him Hyde. I like Heidoff. He's a good player.
Yeah. So like you got all those guys coming at you, and then game firmly in control. They put in Dylan Van Dyke at quarterback, who he's going to be really good for them next year too.
Filled in admirable. Some thought he may get the start. Like that's a good option to have as the next man up.
Yeah, he didn't get many opportunities, but he got in there, only threw it once with a 17-yard strike to Morgan Fingenbider, who also hit a 44-yard field goal at the end of the half. They had a touchdown wiped away and then got sacked. So they backed way up and then decided to kick the field goal and snuck it through from 44 yards. So you've got, on top of that running game, you've got the ability to hit 40-yard field goals. That's definitely going to be a nice little thing to have moving forward. But
and as we've seen so far with teams that are of similar ilk, special teams absolutely matter.
100%.
They absolutely matter. It's even more magnified at the high school level, and we know it matters at the collegiate and the professional level.
Yeah, so mentions after that impressive performance, Scott moved up from 3 to 2. Bennington still sitting there at 1. We talked about how their defense has kind of been carrying them.
Yeah, the offense is still a work in progress.
58-0. I'd say they figured some things out there against Pius X there.
And shut Volkmer down for the most part, who's a very good quarterback.
Yeah, and I know he missed, I think their previous game got banged up. I was back. I saw the score. I assumed that he was still out. But 34 total yards of offense. 10 passing, 24 rushing.
Struggle.
So that Bennington defense is still very much
they are legit.
Fierce,
led by Lordson and a host of folks, man. They get after you.
Yeah. They only Payne Salmon only completed 1 pass with a 21-yard touchdown. Also carried the ball 4 times for 43 yards and another score. Quentin Archer, 11 carries, 134 yards and a touchdown. Jackson Dumont, 5 carries, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. They just anybody they handed the ball off to basically had a chance to score the ball. Really impressive performance. So Bennington, Scott clearly up there 1-2 after really impressive wins. And then Waverly. That was the interesting one. Waverly moving up from 4 to 3.
Let me ask you the question before you get into the details. Did you feel like they did enough to jump Elkhorn North, or was it more for you, first blush, about Elkhorn North's schedule?
Yeah, it's got to be that, because I was at Elkhorn North on Thursday. I saw the last 3 quarters of that. Got there a little late, but early on, like they were struggling a little bit. Grand Island Northwest gave them some problems, but they ended up kind of shut them out in the second half, taking control of that game. So it took them a while to get into it. But
they kind of had a funny schedule too. Week 0, then the bye, then a little bit of a lull in terms of competitive balance in the schedule, and now they're going to have to ramp it up again. Not always easy to do.
Yep. So yeah, I was like, okay, after seeing that performance, they weren't exactly dominating, but they took care of business. And then I was following that. I forgot who was there. Someone was covering it online, following their tweets or whatever. And it's like, wow, Norris is they're giving Waverly some problems here. And then Waverly ended up winning 27-22. But yeah, I mean,
hard to believe Norris has a losing record.
It's the same thing that
a lot of
last year.
Schedule,
yeah,
right?
We talked about it in the same way last year. It's like they're in every game. They're tough, but they just can't get the wins against any of these other ranked teams or whatever. So this is kind of the way it's been in Class B for a few of these teams recently.
Spoiler alert: Norris checks in at number 10.
And yeah, they were receiving votes last week, but yeah, so they cracked the top 10 with a loss. But yeah, 27-22 there. It was tight the whole game. Nolan Moss, 18 for 33 for 160 yards and 2 picks. So Norris did a great job of slowing down that passing offense that they've been able to lean on a little bit. They've kind of bounced back and forth between run heavy, pass heavy games. But they could not slow Moss down on the ground.
Yeah.
21 carries for 120 yards and all 4 of their touchdowns. So really impressive. They shut down their backs. Like Casson, Smith, and Axman combined 16 carries for 33 yards. But they could not stop the quarterback there. And he basically won that game by himself, him and his linemen on offense. So Waverly did enough to hold on there. And now they moved up to 3 from 4, dropping Elkhorn North down to 4, again, with a 30-12 win at Grand Island Northwest. They were down 12-9 at halftime after having to kick a field goal just before time expired. Moved down there, 5 seconds left, decided to kick it instead of trying to take a shot at the end zone there. But second half, they just shut them down 21-0, and had, I think, 2 picks in the second half after 1 in the first half. Johnny Ferguson, 116 yards passing and a touchdown, 59 yards rushing and a touchdown. Jet Tingelhoff had a really good game on both ends of the field. 17 carries, 112 yards and a touchdown on offense, plus an 11-yard reception, and 8 tackles and a pick on defense, leading them there. Tommy Mechna, 63 yards and a touchdown on offense, and touchdown was sick. Threw it kind of around the 6, broke free of 1 tackle, ran through another up the sideline for a 40-yard score. Also had a pick off a deflection. They had both their deflections second half.
Another good dual sport athlete too.
Yeah. Lincoln Flagel had 109 yards rushing for Grand Island Northwest. I thought Camden Walker, receiver, went up and made some really nice plays, but second half, they just could not move the ball, could not take care of it. And Elkhorn North just kind of leaned on them and eventually pulled away there. But so Elkhorn North, like you said, see what the schedule kind of brings for them down the road. They're 4-0 now. And at 5, another team moving up.
Let me ask you. So as we get ready to talk about York, my dark horse that was outside kind of the top 7 in Class B that I felt had a chance to make some noise. When you see them move up from 7-5 and you watch how they played against Bennington in a real tough one, which is their only loss, they getting credit for a good loss?
I think so.
Okay.
At this point,
it just lets me know that these coaches are really paying attention.
And that's what I was going to say.
We've schedule
multiple spots where you're not being penalized, like Elkhorn getting destroyed by Scott. That's more understanding Scott than it is like, oh, Elkhorn, get them out of here.
So I like that, right there. It just validates the poll and the credibility that folks take it seriously.
And Scud it too, despite the loss, because the loss was to Bennington in a game that maybe probably couldn't have even that could have gone the other way there, or maybe should have. So yeah, you're seeing that in a lot of different spots in the poll. But yeah, York 3-1 and climbed up to 5 after a 14-10 win at Scottsbluff.
Yeah. So
not only did they pull that off, but that was a really impressive performance for them to kind of travel out there. And again, 14-10, it was kind of back and forth the whole way, and then not a whole lot of offense, which, knowing the kind of firepower in that game for Scottsbluff in particular, to limit them to 10 points after what Scottsbluff has done so far this year.
Mm-hmm. Good distinction.
Really impressive performance. Obviously, it's always tough to fully judge them because of the out-of-state teams they play, because we just don't know what the Colorado, Wyoming teams are. Same thing happens in basketball, that kind of the Western Nebraska schools where you got to play who's close to you. So it's kind of hard to compare schedule to schedule when that's the case. But I think Scottsbluff, with the loss, they dropped from 5 to 6 there. And I think, again, the coaches, they understand they're still a good team despite that loss. They're still firmly in that top mix there.
You want more proof of process? You just talked about it with Scottsbluff in the 5 to 6. How about Plattsmouth from 6 to 7? Right, not necessarily a great win, but their only loss. I mean, look at their schedule. Like, they're being rewarded for playing the schedule that they are, and this is yet another example.
Yeah, and that was more York jumping ahead of them than Platt Smith dropping there. Even though they moved down one spot. But 3-1 for Platt Smith and 41-7 win against Elkhorn Mount Michael. And shout out, a couple guys set some school records there. Gage Olson, 4 catches, 4 touchdowns, 102 yards. School record, 4 touchdowns receiving. And Caleb Adkins on defense, 12 tackles, 6 for loss, including school record 5 sacks. So really impressive performance there. Gabe Villamonte, 13 of 15, 210 yards and 5 touchdowns.
You read that number right.
Yeah, and including the sacks, because obviously that goes into rushing yardage. 22 carries for negative 18 yards on the ground for that for Mount Michael. So really impressive performance by that Platt Smith defense. And then Seward at 9 there took care of business, 26-14 against Hastings to kind of round out the top 10
and
there.
And we talked about Norris checking in at number 10. We kind of referenced him early, battle testing a lot about the schedule as we jump over to Class A.
Yeah, Class A. And again, right off the top, West Side Warriors there taking care of business, 49-7 against Millard North, who obviously we were both there last year when Millard North played you about as tough as anybody not named North Platte during the regular season.
100%.
Was not the case this year. I think this West Side team's a little different and
just a lot more focused and dialed in, right?
And you were without 3 defensive starters, right?
Yeah, it was. So, I mean, we had to kind of figure it out a little bit, and we adjusted. And we'll put that to the test this week as we go to it's a 3-1 Norfolk team, too. So, it's always tough to travel, but it's a mature team. And we find ways to – I know you may roll your eyes a little bit, but you're so competitive. You may not. Like, we like different storylines within the story, right? And you get enough Mooberries and Vermas and some of these guys. There's always something on the other side that gets our attention. And I know sometimes it seems petty, but it dials you in when you know that you're playing against other, good individual talent. It just has a way of focusing you up.
Speaking of good individual talent, Anthony Rizak, 6 of 7 passing, 155 yards and 2 scores, 9 carries, 149 yards and 3 more scores. That is over 300 yards on 16 touches and 5 touchdowns.
I just want to tell you something, Jacob. It's become so standard for him. We kind of just roll our eyes like ho hum. He will break records for sure at Westside. The dual performance. I said this to you last week. You just don't get out of bed and go 2,400, 1,000 passing, rushing for a team that played the schedule that we did a year ago. He's going to be on pace to do it again, although we'll have to throw it a little more at some point. We spent the first quarter and a half. Cotton and Benning didn't even touch the ball. I don't even know. Caleb only got one target in the first half. So
Keenan
it's like
did Keenan even touch the ball?
He did not.
Think so. Yeah,
he did not.
Well,
so you have to be unselfish too.
Yeah. Well, that's because Christian Jones was hogging the touchdowns this week. 2 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. What was it, 68-yard or something like that? Right off the bat.
Game, right. That was on the dry race board, right? Like they kind of drew that one up. And good on CJ. He's having a fantastic season for. It doesn't always show up in the stat sheets.
You get so many guys that spread around.
He's just so good. I mean, we had 3 guys. Just think about this for a second. We had 3 guys that totaled 34 tackles. Yeah. Bo Ryan had 12. Caleb had 11. Christian Jones had 10. That's pretty good, right? Yeah. Share the wealth.
So 2 touchdowns on offense, 10 tackles, a couple for loss on defense. You mentioned Bo Ryan, Caleb, both guys made tackles behind the line. Not many passes thrown from Millard North, but Caleb did break one up. And then was it Drew Klein, 33-yard fumble recovery touchdown?
He's going to be a really good player.
So
he's playing behind. How would you like to be Drew Klein playing behind Rizak and Benning? Like you just got to kind of wait. Yeah. But he's going to be really, really good.
Good guys to learn from, too.
Yeah.
So that, I think, kind of not too surprising how that game turned out. The other game that we thought would be the game of the week, I think we weren't 100% sure about Gretna just because of their
Yep.
schedule, but we thought the talent was backed up their record. And so if that was the case, Millard South 38-7 win at Gretna, wasn't even at Buell. That's probably as impressive performance as anybody had
win.
all weekend.
Great win. And listen, I mean, everybody's waiting for it. I hear the West Side, Millard West talk, or West Side and Millard South talk, excuse me. But there'll be some other teams, I think, that have a say-so. Millard West being one of them, Kearney being another. North is still waiting in the wings, maybe at a possible rematch with one of the aforementioned. But, with Millard South doing it without Feller, who
that's yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're hoping. Listen, we don't want any excuses on the 13th. So we're hoping they're healthy. We're hoping we're healthy. So because I think that's what people are looking for. But in the meantime, we got Norfolk, we got North Platte, we go to Kearney, which we know what Coach School does. But Millard South continuing. Here's the thing that's impressive about them. It seems like it's somebody different almost every week. They get by with a lot of really quality, good team concepts. This week it was you get a running back fill in. Tamala's still doing his thing. Marion Jackson's going to do his thing. But how about that defensive secondary, which I mean, we watch them on film. We kind of know what we're dealing with. They're like, hey, stop just talking about our D-line.
Yeah.
We're pretty good too.
Dylan Cool picked off Wilcoxon twice, ran one back for a touchdown.
That was a great run, by the way.
88 total yards.
Did you watch that?
I didn't see it, but he's the one that had the pick six against Elkhorn South at the end of the half. So he also had a fumble recovery. So 3 takeaways by himself, including one he put in the end zone. Also caught 2 passes for 50 yards. So 2-way standout there. Again, making plays in that back end. You mentioned Feller being out. Gabe Pruka stepped in there. 16 carries.
Looked to be a stud,
yards.
didn't he? And he's just a pup.
Yep. Had a touchdown, had a receiving touchdown, also completed a pass for a touchdown. So first start, you go run, receive, pass, touchdown. That's really impressive. There aren't many guys that have done that.
Yeah.
And to do that,
especially at his age.
Yeah. Was just sophomore, I believe.
Yeah.
And then Tomala did 16-27, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both those went to Amarion Jackson, who caught 8 passes, 122 yards. Who
trending in the right direction.
Yeah. Kind of a quiet start of the season. He's really starting to come on.
Last
and that's
2 weeks, he's been really good.
And we talked about Millard South early on, looking good, but like offense are still figuring some things out. They got a lot of young players. It seems week to week they're getting better. They're settling in. They're figuring some things out offensively, which is what you want to see from a team playing so many young guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they really shut down Gretna. Wilcoxon only had 26 yards rushing, and Isaiah Weber just 30 yards rushing.
That was eye-opening.
As a team, 57 yards on 30 carries. Yeah. So we
talked
about
good D-line.
Yeah, we talked about how good that D-line is, causing havoc getting behind the line, but they're stout up front too. It's not just a pass rushing line. They'll hold the line of scrimmage and not let you run. So Millard South looking really good there at 2. At 3, Millard West took care of business against Creighton Prep, 20-7.
That's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Quietly one of the better, more convincing wins, and it's not just in the final score either. I thought Prep maybe be trending up, but I also felt like Millard West was pretty good.
And again, I think Prep's still figuring some things out offensively, but that defense is legit. And talk about Zach McClay like every week now. Their one touchdown, I believe, was like a 90-yard kickoff return from him. So they're finding more ways to get him involved than just standing back there making every tackle. They're trying to special teams offense. But yeah, that's the team's not easy to win. Now they go to Sioux City, South Sioux City next week, taking on Tony Palmer and South Sioux City squad. That's
Palmer's legit.
Running
now
the
he's
ball,
going to need a
ton
of help, but he's legit.
Yep.
It's a big time player. I believe every bit of the statistical analysis and just watching him on film. He looks electric.
Yeah. And then Kearney Bell West was the other game that we kind of highlighted last week. And we knew Bell West was going to be shorthanded. They were even more shorthanded than we initially thought. TJ Whaley not making it either, who we figured, oh, that's the guy you're going to lean on without Isaiah McMorris and Davon Hall.
So full disclosure, and I think you and I talked about this when I talked about how tough he was. I even sent Coach Huffman a message. I was like, wow. I said, Whaley's really, really a tough kid. He took some shots against us, and I think he wanted to come out of the game, and he did. And I said, I really respect the heck out of Whaley. And sure enough, I did not know real time when I sent – it wasn't real time. It was Sunday or Monday that he had a concussion in that game and was forced to miss the game against Kearney. Yeah,
so short down without basically their three best offensive weapons for Danny Kaelin there. 16-14 win for Kearney. Jake Krakel, 27-yard field goal with 1:23 left to take the lead. And then Kearney defense. So I'm not sure if he picked it off or it was just a turnover on downs. I didn't see if he what they called there, but anyway, Bell West couldn't really move the ball right off the bat. Quick pass, dropped it, and so playing from behind the whole way. Like that's 1 minute drive there, 1 minute offense trying to put together, and got off to a bad start. They just had a tough time moving the ball, getting in the end zone. Again, they could not run the ball. Kearney's defense, I mean, neither team could really run the ball. You look at it, Kearney, 21 carries for 66 yards on the ground. Bellevue West, 30 carries for 88 yards.
Yeah,
so both about 3 yards a carry.
Tough sledding.
Griffin Novacek, 9 of 13 for 117 yards and a touchdown. For the Kearney offense, Carter Lee had that receiving touchdown, totaled 47 receiving yards. Danny Kaelin basically had to be the entire Bellevue West offense there. They could not get Goff going at all. Kaelin 31 had to throw it 53 times, completed 31 of them for 238 yards. No touchdowns, had a pick. Had both their touchdowns he scored himself on the ground. Ben Goodwater, we talked about him too with having to step up. 13 catches for 61 yards. But nobody else really.
Great frame.
Yeah. Just had a completion here or there. Nobody else besides Goodwater really got consistently going to be a threat there. So really good win for Kearney there, sitting there at 4-0 at number 4. And that's a really strong top 4 there with West Side, Millard South, Millard West, and Kearney. Omaha North, they sitting there at 5-3-1, 56-0 against Benson. Is what it is there.
Sophomore just shouldering the load for them in terms of cannon. That's pretty impressive. I know Coach Martin likes him a ton, but unfortunately he's going to be compared to a lot of past great North running backs, but Cannon can tote the mail. Yeah, had to step in for a pretty darn good one last year, and it's stepped in admirably and given them that running game to go with the passing game there. With Circo and the athletes they got on the outside. Perhaps the most disturbing story in a team coming off a win is Elkhorn South with potentially what's going to go on with Carson Ronner. I didn't hear what's he's got a really bad knee injury. Jeez. And that's after getting knocked out against Millard South and then coming back. It has been a struggle for Ronner. It breaks my heart just we played against the Junior Storm yesterday, and it's just kind of a heavy mood, even at a youth game, 8th grade game surrounding what's going on with Ronner. So just wishing him a speedy recovery. And it's interesting. This team's going to have to rally. Yeah. And the schedule may shake out to buy them a little bit of time. With district play starting, and they got Northwest next week. They've got to get their mojo back a little bit to play with some confidence because it's a talented team. Yeah. Despite losing him, they got held on 32-21 win there. Lincoln East, 42-7 win at Lincoln Northeast at 7. Lincoln Southeast is at 8 this week. 42. And here they come quietly after a shaky offensive start. 42-16 win over Lincoln North Star. And then Papillion and the Vista is hanging in there at 10, a 28-14 win against Lincoln Southwest there. So that kind of rounds out the top 10 in A. Some shout outs here. We love them. This is the best part of the show. Blair Jr., Brock Templar, 33 carries, 226 yards, and a touchdown, 4 catches for 37 yards and 6 tackles. An impressive 22-7 win at Gross.
We know Blair got off to a slow start from kind of expectations
I saw
but
those guys this weekend, man. He's good. That's a good program.
still a very talented player there. And Sydney senior Isaac Doty completed 6 passes for 203 yards and 3 touchdowns, 12 carries, 155 yards and 2 touchdowns, had 9 tackles, and he also handled kickoff and punt duties in a 42-35 win against Mitchell. Boys Town junior Taylor Jacobs, 26 carries for 308 yards and 3 touchdowns, had a 39-yard kickoff return, had 3 tackles and a pick that he returned 19 yards in a 26-0 win at Falls City. And we'll go Tri-County senior Dustin Kapke here. Completed 3 passes for 41 yards, ran the ball 20 times for 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also had 4 tackles, was their kickoff man and the kicker as well.
He could get the uniforms cleaned as well.
A little bit of everything down there, C1, C2. A 33-7 win for Tri-County against David City there. And Wes Holt Jr., Lincoln Conrad quarterback, completed all 9 of his passes for 191 yards and 4 touchdowns. 9 passes, 4 touchdowns, pretty good ratio there.
Is that a good ratio?
Yeah. Also carried the ball 14 times for 97 yards and another score. Had 9 tackles and a pick in a 32-20 win against Fremont Bergen there.
Must be rough. Must be rough to be that efficient. You know more about that than me as the king of inefficient. That's another week of NEB Preps. That's my main man, Jacob Padilla, the best in the business when it comes to, man, just all things high school. He's thorough. You want to challenge him? Go ahead. I bet he's got notes. Be back next week. Don't you dare miss it. It's NEB Preps.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.